Dr. Davis.
I appreciate the kind words, Marty. So let me just start out by saying something that I would be teaching or going on, because this is keynote, and I'm thinking, you know, most keynotes that I went to were pretty long and boring, and so actually this is going to be more about educating. That's what I like to do. I like to teach. I like to educate, and so. I'm quite confident there's not much you're going to hear from me today that's going to be profound, or is going to be, I can assure you, won't be divinely inspired. But, but, but it will be probably challenging for some, a bit provocative. I am a serious person, and I'm a genuine person, and so I'll give you that much. The best I can, I'll provide you with information that makes sense and hopefully will be relevant and that you can use. Now I want to share something with you personally. That's Corcoran State Prison. That's where I was at. I did it over a year there for substance abuse, for drug conviction, back in 1998. And that's where I decided to quit. Now, I didn't decide to quit because I went to prison. I decided to quit because, and that's 10 years ago. I'll be 10 years clean and sober July 24th. So for all of you out there who thought that I didn't know what I was talking about, I do have some personal credentials in this. I got better in spite of my treatment. What happened to me was when I went to prison the second time, because I graduated from the first time. I went to county jail in the first time, and then 4 years later went to prison. Because, but anyway, because I blamed a lot of people for the first time. But the second time I was in prison, I got a letter from my ex-wife. Was pretty painful to read. And mainly because, well, you know, you're in prison, you're a pretty captive audience, so you read anything. But along with telling me, you know, how big of a jerk I was, she also told me that my mom had a heart attack and was in the hospital and was going to die. And I realized in a moment that my substance abuse, my using crack cocaine, was not just harming me, which I really didn't care too much about, but was harming the person that I cared about the most in my life. I loved my mom dearly. I'm adopted, and she chose me and sacrificed for me. And they were not going to let me out. And she was 77 at the time, and I knew that, and I go, it's come to this, you're the person that you profess to love and care for the most in your life is hooked to 5 or 6 tubes in this white sterile room, and she's going to leave this mortal plane all alone, not knowing where you're at. And you're not able to tell her you love her, you care about her, you appreciate her, that it's going to be okay. So that day, I decided I was going to quit using. That was my motivation to stop using. It had nothing to do with meetings or divine intervention or anything else or harsh punishment. It had to do with my own personal motivation as I realized that. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to use again. And so I got out, and they sent me to Corcoran, and I actually participated in a therapeutic community there that wasn't too bad. But while I was there, I realized that a lot of the people that were trying to help me didn't know much, and it could be harmful. And I thought, you know, maybe I can do a better job of that. And I made a commitment at that point to dedicate myself to learn as much as I could about this disorder or this problem or this illness or whatever you want to call it, and how to get better. And so that was my motivation. And I've never used again, and it's been quite a journey. And my mom didn't die, by the way. She saw me get my PhD. I remember what I said that day that I decided to quit. I said, you know, for the rest of my life, regardless of what happens to mom or not, I'm going to live my life in a way that will make her proud of me. And that had to do with values. That didn't have anything to do with anything else. And she saw me walk across the stage and get my PhD in June of 2005, I guess. and she was quite happy and proud. So, but here, let me just say up front, what my big thing is that that in the industry right now, at least through the federal government, because there's these, because treatment now is becoming vogue again, but there's accountability is now a big thing. There's increasingly, because of our economy and taxes and people in general having a difficult time making their ends meet. There more and more, the government is saying that not for themselves, but for the people who are spending the money down at the grassroots, that there needs to be more accountability. And so, and there needs to be reliable studies to show that treatment interventions for alcohol and drug clients are truly effective. We've been saying for years that treatment works. But actually, that's a misnomer, because the truth is treatment works for some, but not for most. But the industry is really in denial about it. Whenever you see people celebrate substance abuse treatment, you always go to these big, huge celebrations, which are really nice, or you'll go to some meeting and they'll trot out some really heart-rending, anecdotal story that somebody who's kind of recovered from substance abuse, they made it back and they lost and got their children back, and those are wonderful. And they go, see, treatment works. Look at this wonderful story. The problem is that they don't show you the 8 or 9 other people that were in treatment with this individual that it didn't work for, that for some reason their life didn't improve. And they continue to experience the negative consequences that can be a part of substance abuse and drug abuse. And so, but by denying the truth of it, by denying that 7 or 8 or 9 out of 10 people actually return to use of some sort, and the Neanderthal way with which we measure outcomes, then the industry can just stay in denial. And so right there, I just gave you evidence of why sometimes I have to duck when I give these talks, because the industry doesn't like hearing this. I happen to be clinical director of a huge agency. I have 2 master's degree and a doctorate degree. I finished #1 on the KDAC exam, and so I have some standing in the community to say this, but you won't hear this very often, and they quite often do not like what I have to say. And I'm not saying that substance abuse treatment isn't a wonderful thing or that it cannot work. What I'm saying is that the way it's delivered today it's actually not working very well, and we need to do something about it. And the first thing is we need to do the same thing that we do with our clients, which is we need to, in fact, admit the reality of the situation. And that is, we're big on holding clients accountable, but the industry is not very big on holding itself accountable. Studies indicate that cognitive, behavioral, and psychological interventions are increasingly being used to treat alcoholism and drug addiction. That's a good thing. However, social model and 12-step interventions continue to be the most commonly used treatment for alcoholism and drug addiction. 90% of treatment for alcoholism and drug addiction is 12-step. It has some positive and some negative ramifications. Lack of comprehensive theory of substance abuse treatment, that's the current approaches. There's no actually accepted kind of comprehensive approach to substance abuse treatment. Most counselors approach treatment based upon education, training, and experiential background. Because of the current nature of substance abuse treatment, it is mostly personal experience. What most of substance abuse treatment is today, because you don't have to have a license to do it, it's very paraprofessional driven, and because it is very self-help co-opted, what you have is you have what I call professional sponsors. So you get people who have 15 or 20 minutes of recovery, and they all of a sudden, and that becomes their credential. That becomes the thing that gives them the license to now go and teach other people, in fact, who may have very complex things going on, how to, in fact, live their life clean and sober. And it's basically based upon whatever it was that they think worked for them. And quite frankly, if you just think about this, there's growing now, I keep walking in front of that. Growing, there's a move to get people more certified. But I can just tell you that for being inside the industry, and again, you know, when I say these things, I have to duck a lot, but you know, I'm going to say them anyway, is that probably your mechanics probably have more certification and training and oversight than probably drug and alcohol counselors. I'm telling you, they have to at least get the good, rich, quality sign of approval thing, you know what I mean? You see that? I mean, and they have to go back and get upgraded on their diagnostics and things like that. Yeah, they do. But substance abuse counselors, for the most part, all they do is go into a room, shut the door, and do whatever it was that they did for them. And the treatment, kind of the default treatment is go to meetings, get a sponsor, do the steps, and turn it over. That's the default treatment for substance abuse. And if that's so good, why don't y'all do it for heart disease? And I mean, and you know, and asthma. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, if it's good for one, it's good for other. We're in the healing profession. And we approach this thing in this really naive Neanderthal way. And if you say anything like what I say, you really get vilified. You know, but the science supports what I'm saying. Now, the fact that there's no comprehensive approach to treatment is not that bad, in that research has found that 3 clinical measures determine treatment effectiveness, regardless of the approach. But there needs to be an approach. Okay, so what I'm saying is that if you have an approach, a truly kind of science-informed clinical approach, then what really is the most important is allegiance factors is 30%, 60% is of the therapeutic effects, 30% is allegiance, that means to your model, and then 3% is, 60% is alliance, 30% is allegiance, and then 8% is of the therapeutic effects. So what that means is that alliance factors is 60% of the outcome. Alliance means the counselor's ability to align with the client, to be able to not yank the client into the counselor's process, which is substance abuse treatment. Remember, you need to do this, and you need to do it this way, and you need to like it. Right? Right? Am I right or wrong? Right? Because if you don't like it, you're resistant. You're in denial. You're not working on this program. You have not hit your bottom yet. Right? Only 30% is allegiance. That means that you are, you know, like me, I have an allegiance to choice theory and REBT and client-centered. I'm pretty existential, but I understand these theories. And so I have an allegiance to them, which means I apply them pretty effectively, pretty consistently. I understand them. And so I'm not eclectic. I mean, I don't just randomly sit in a chair and do whatever I want. I actually have something that informs what I'm doing with the client. And then 8% is actually the interventions themselves. So that's a good thing. So what that means is that even if people don't know what they're doing, they really can't mess up too much. The same research shows that the probability for success is greater when the treatment offered fits with or is complementary to the client's theory of change. What the client thinks at fundamentally how they need to change, what they need to do, what direction they want to go in. If you can align with that, you get more buy-in and better outcomes. Now, my question about this whole thing is, how can clinicians like me, how can we tell if what we're doing is actually working? I mean, how can we tell? Most of those studies actually were, you saw it, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years post-treatment. So how do you know that what you were doing during treatment was actually doing any good at all? Because you can't tell what's happening with clients after they get out of treatment. There's no way to tell what factors influence their lives. I mean, those studies actually don't make any sense to me, because even if a client 4 years or 5 years or 6 years down the road is actually sober, how do you know that it was what you did 5 years ago that did it? How do you know something didn't happen a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or yesterday that actually motivated this client to stop using right now? You can't tell that. There's so many what we call in science confounding variables that the research is really irrelevant. But they jump up and down and pat each other over the back and put all these studies in journals and go, look how smart I am. And 7 decades later, our outcomes are no different than they were in 55. So, so I'm challenging that. Well, how can you tell? Well, I think that we could probably do something. One thing we could do is we could find out how the client's feeling while we got them, while they're coming to see us, right? I mean, one thing that's wonderful about Lifering, which is why I was so attracted to it, is that they actually sat down and taught to each other. Huh. Novel. I mean, because we know most of the other organizations, you actually get punished for talking. What is it? No crosstalk. You better not say a word. Don't ask a question. Just be grateful. What aspects of treatment are working for a given client? How do they know what is not working? What during treatment variables positively affect treatment outcomes? That might be important. Right now, the screening tools that we use in treatment is we use the ASI, we use the SASE, we use the MAST, and we use the CAGE. That's what we use. That's what we use. And they're primarily screening tools, and they're used to see if the threshold for a diagnosis of abuse or dependency is met. So that's what we use. If you answer these a certain way, you meet the threshold, and we say, yes, you are addicted or you're an alcoholic, you meet the threshold, and you can get treatment. No published research was found that indicated these instruments could be used to measure progress that people were making in their attempt to learn to effectively live clean and sober lives beyond abstinence, which we call recovery. Real answers. Motivation is linked with treatment outcomes. Motivation exists before, during, and after treatment. Higher motivation at treatment entry results in better treatment outcomes. Higher motivation at treatment entry, not higher fear. That's different. Do you understand? Not higher fear. The fear that you're going to hurt me if I don't go to this treatment. Higher motivation. Motivation for something different. Severity of substance use relates to increased motivation. If substance use has become painful enough for some individuals, they do have increased motivation to change. But again, it's the substance use that is causing the motivation, not the referring party. You understand? There's a difference between my substance use and me realizing that this is really a problem for me versus you telling me that my substance use is a problem and you want me to quit. 5 stages of change. That's just a way you can measure motivation: pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, preparation, action, and maintenance. And and here's a good one. Most effective treatment is the one clients like the most. So let me just ask you informed individuals here. Where's the best place to have a heart attack? Imagine that. So where do you think the best place to relapse would be? Huh? A little too rational, isn't it? But here's what we do. We kick you out. Yeah. I had one of my clients, when I first came to Strategies for Change, I came in with a whole different philosophy than what they're used to. I had people lose their minds, quit, the whole 9 yards. And I was sitting in my office, and they had one of my counselors, good counselor too, come down, run down to my office. Dr. Davis. Yeah. So-and-so relapsed. Mad. Just like angry. I go, okay. What are we going to do about it? I said, help him? And she looked at me like, I go, yeah, we're going to help them. That's what we do here. We help people who struggle with substance abuse. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to go back and help her. Okay? And I confused her. She just turned around, walked off like, you know, what just happened? That would be like I'm a psychologist, and that would be the same as having somebody come in and sit in my chair, and they go, Dr. Davis, I'm really depressed today, really. And I go, well, you know what? You're going to have to leave. You are too depressed for me. I need you to go back out there and get a little happier. When you get a little happier, come back and see me. And I'll help you. So here's the censored version of my title. So what is recovery anyway? Current measures of recovery. Incorporation of mandated self-help programming into formal treatment has led recovery to primarily be measured by abstinence, compliance, and meeting attendance. That's what recovery is. If you ask anybody, I'm in industry, I'm telling you, if you are in recovery, you are not using, you're going to meetings, and you're doing what you're told. That is the measure. Because I know because I every day, I hear people. I talk to them. I have a huge agency. And they come in the hallway. And most of them come in, they are mandated to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I'll do a whole bunch of other stuff. They're really threatened and things like that. And I'm not saying that going to meetings is not a good thing. Lifering's a meeting. But what I'm saying is that forcing people to go to things that may and may not align with their personal beliefs is not treatment. But I hear them in the hallway, and they go, and they'll be saying, say, how's your recovery going? Oh, good. Really? Yeah. Went to 5 meetings this week. And so I'm thinking, oh, that must be recovery then, right? Right? And I'm thinking, wow. Is that really what recovery is? While the measures may contribute to the overall picture, they do not give us, and here's the thing, they do not give us information about the actual subjectively experienced improvement of clients' lives, their motivation for long-term behavior change. It doesn't tell us anything. Even abstinence doesn't tell us anything. You understand that? Abstinence doesn't tell you anything. You know what abstinence tells you? It tells you it's been a long time since somebody had a drink. So that's all it tells you. It does not tell you factually anything else. Listen to it. I've been abstinent for 6 months. What else do you know? What else do you know? Do you know if I'm happy? Do I have good relationships? Am I healthy? Do I feel good about myself? Am I motivated? Am I miserable? Am I depressed? Am I insecure? It doesn't tell you anything else. Nothing. Just says that for whatever reason, I haven't had a drink or used drugs for that long a period of time. Defined. And Carter defines recovery as gaining back something lost or taken away. That makes more sense to me. Right? You're recovering. Just think about that. We are recovering. That's what it's called, recovering. To take back something lost or stolen. Applied to substance abuse treatment, what people recover from Dr. Davis's perspective is the quality of their life. Because that's what they lost for most of them. And that means something subjectively to every individual. It is what motivates them to stay sober after they've dealt with it. Because if people are able to remain clean and sober for extended periods of time, it's going to be the hardest thing they ever did anyway. There's a push-pull model recovery by Dr. Robert Helgo. He's actually the executive director at Hazleton. And he says that people are pushed into recovery by negative consequences, which is actually true. Most of the time, most people don't just wake up and say, I think I'm going to go in and get me some recovery today. Right? I think I'm going to stop doing that thing that I've really enjoyed doing for the last 15, 20 years. Right? Most people are pushed into treatment. But they are pulled to stay in recovery by the benefits of recovery. By the benefits of recovery. It is assumed that if people stop using drugs and or alcohol, that magically their lives will improve and they will feel better. And quite frankly, the evidence doesn't support that. Once individuals have changed behavior, what is the motivation to maintain that change? Remember, motivation, one of the strongest predictors of outcome, right? What is the reward for sobriety or abstinence? Choice theory says that individuals are motivated by pleasure. Does anybody disagree with that? I'm just wondering. Did I get a consensus on that? All right, okay. In practice, it means that whether or not we feel pain, we always want to learn how to behave to feel better and avoid pain. Just think about the big picture of substance abuse. And most needs are satisfied by, from a choice theory perspective, by accessing a place called our quality worlds. And a quality world is just that place. I'd say if I put it up here. I did. I'm pretty thorough. Our quality world are things stored throughout our lives that have been effective at making us feel better, even if they may also have negative consequences. So here's the thing to think about this, you guys. Just for a minute, let go of how you may have conceptualized substance abuse and conceptualize it this way. There's this place, anything that you do is motivated behavior, just unless it's like, blinking or, things like that. And here's what we do. Throughout our lives, from the time we're born throughout, we, in fact, try to get our needs met. And those things that meet our needs, that make us feel better, regardless of the morality of them, that comes later, but if they are effective, we then record them in this place that Glasser calls our quality world. It's kind of this virtual place in your mind where you have images. And they go in there. Why do they go in there? They go in there because they work so that when we feel that way again, we can access them again. And things that go in there, like for most babies, the first thing that goes in there is their mother's breast and milk. But the things that go in there, and there's a lot of things that go in there, certain foods. If I asked you all, what's your favorite food if you get hungry? Ice cream, there's a quality world issue. What else? Who else likes other things? Steaks, in your quality world. Understand? So when you get hungry, you start going through your quality world file, right? And depending on the geography, the availability, if you know where you're at, you go to the steak file and pull it out, right? That's what how much money you have, whatever. Now, I tell you, like for me, and you'll see this again later on, in my quality world, way high up is barbecue ribs. Right? You'll see that. Now, I'll tell you what happens. I tell you what doesn't go through my mind when I get hungry. Liver. Had it, didn't like it, not in my quality world. Not in there. But so things go into our quality worlds. TV shows, belief systems, hair color, cars, art, music. Those things, whenever we have deficits, they go into we choose things. And if what we choose works, if it makes us feel better, it gets recorded and it goes into that quality world. And it becomes what we call a preference. So when we feel a certain way, we actually choose how we satisfy that by preferences, right? And it becomes what we call a preferred way of coping or preferred way of need satisfaction. And those things go into our quality world, both the things that help us feel better and the things that help us to not feel bad. And that's in anything, relationships, anything that works. The urge to behave, you guys can do this when you leave here. Try this. Anytime you feel frustrated, do a little self-eval and ask yourself, what is it that I want or expect that I'm not getting? Because I guarantee you 99.9% of the time, that's going to be why you're feeling frustrated or sad or anxious or anything else. It's going to be because there is a disparity between what you want or expect and what you actually are experiencing. And that causes an urge to behave. It just means I need to do something to address this, to feel better. Application to substance abuse treatment, or just substance abuse in general. I did this for treatment because I do a lot of form, but I understand that a lot of times, this is Lifering, and a lot of this is self-help driven, so just your own personal recovery. Clients need to feel that what they are doing in treatment or in their sobriety, in their sober lives, is acceptable and adequately satisfying their needs. If not, decreased satisfaction and motivation leads to the reduction of wanted treatment or abstinence behaviors. Here's what that means, is sobriety has to be rewarding. That's all I'm saying. Isn't that just a novel idea? Right? Just think about it. Sobriety. Both treatment needs, if I'm in treatment, I need to feel that my treatment is actually resulting in me feeling better, that I feel better, and that sobriety is feeling better. Because if it doesn't, decreased satisfaction and motivation leads to me quitting, or what they call demonstrating resistance. If what you're telling me to do in treatment is I don't feel is working for me, then obviously, at that point, I'm going to experience that not as neutral, but as painful. And I love the Lifering workbook, Recovery by Choice. Oh, I saw that at the conference when Marty was there, and I almost cried. I was like, imagine giving clients the power to choose, to actually respect them, regard them, believe in them, and communicate to them, and listen to them, and create a strategy for change consistent with their own self-view and worldview. Imagine the novelty of that. Quality of life. The World Health Organization defines quality of life as people's perception of their position in life within the context of the culture and value system in which they live, and in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. Subjective. That's a pretty good definition. Further defined, an individual's sense of well-being, state of health and level of functioning as measured by their ability to interact with their environment and perform various tasks. That's what this is all about. You know that this is what all healing is about? This is what all healing is about. All the healing everywhere. Not just substance abuse, mental health, medical, cancer, catastrophic injury, allergies, diabetes, prison, any healing. Marriage and family therapy, couples, teenage, it's always about trying to improve a person's sense of well-being, how well they feel right now. It's an existential thing with me. I keep telling people are, they worried about dying and what's going to come next. You know what? That'll take care of itself. It's the living part. It's the living part that's the hard work, right? And we need to be focused on this part. This is what we got. We got this wonderful, looks like eye blink in the history of all the continuum. To actually be able to connect with people and feel love and compassion and have relationships and have children and learn and enjoy good music and good art and eat barbecue ribs and Ben and Jerry's, right? And so we should be about helping people learn how to improve the quality of their lives, to get their needs met, to get along with each other, for this eye blink that we're here. And quit beating people over the head with our own, morality police. You're a bad person. Quality of life measures are like the client's appraisal of conditions as it affects his or her quality of life, derived from psychosocial perspective on family, life, and well-being. There's also health-related ones that function, that we actually measure the functional status of individuals, relates to perception of illness and the appropriate intervention. Research supports that if people are recovering, it is reflected across various quality of life, motivation, and satisfaction domains. If people are getting better, we will be able to measure it. That if clients feel their lives are worthwhile, they may tolerate negative aspects of substance abuse reduction or abstinence. So you got to understand that stopping using something that you've been using effectively for years is going to be painful. And so there has to be some motivation to endure it, especially early on. And so that thing that I think is the chief motivator is if clients feel, or even not clients, even Lifering, even informal, but if they feel that they're not using and that the treatment that they're undergoing is actually helping to improve their life, then they're more apt to hang in there until they are able to learn new coping skills and find new ways to get their needs met. Because you got to understand is that substance abuse, drugs and alcohol effectively meet all the 5 basic needs, and they do it faster and more intensely than anything else that you can do. And there's nothing that you're going to be able to do naturally that's going to be able to do it as well. That's just true. And when you find the things that can do it, that you can engage and improve, it's going to take time. It's going to be delayed. And so in between, you have to hang in there. And that's where self-help helps. And I don't get me wrong. I think that 12-step and SMART and Life and all of them, they all are effective for those people that find them attracted to them and that they work for. Do you understand? But the thing is that in treatment, what we want to try to do is to try to, in fact, if people are ambivalent and don't know where they are, we don't want to beat them up or kick them out. What we want to do is help educate them and treat them with the same respect and regard as we respect anybody else. And in fact, what happens is, like what happened at San Luis Obispo, what normally happens is that people over time buy into the notion. They realize, you know what, I can't moderate this. You know what, the cost of my continued use outweighs me stopping. And so, but I trust this person, I trust this person, I trust this program, I trust this group, so I'm going to, you know, I'm going to use them to support me in making the next move that I need to make. The abstinence goal provides room for abstract harm reduction work to occur. So we still have an abstinence goal. The accepting atmosphere of harm reduction with the clarity of the goal of abstinence promotes patient retention better than either separately, because everybody that comes feels non-judged, depending on where they're at. Putting it all together. I'm going to try, I do that. I know I'm all over the place. So I told you to hold on. Well, we still got some more to go. Literature indicates that substance abuse treatment is effective. There were many studies relating to quality of life and health, but few regarding quality of life and substance abuse. Theory supports the use of quality of life instruments as measures of change for treatment clients, and a logical connection can be made between quality of life, motivation, and treatment outcomes. According to Heidi and Watts, what we should be measuring when we measure quality of life for clients is emotional, where they are in their emotional health, medical, social, behavioral, what they're doing, and how much or how long the drug has been used. If we're going to actually do that, we want to get that. That would be a good way of kind of getting a measure of where people are at in their recovery. Abstinence as a measure of recovery. Abstinence alone provided no qualitative information regarding level of recovery. Not saying that abstinence is not a good thing, but what I'm saying is it doesn't tell you much. I talked about that a little earlier. What was more an indication of ability to comply with the program and or referring sources requirements. That's what abstinence actually, that's what it indicated. That's what it measured. Quality of life inventory. Initially, there was a lag time between the beginning of treatment and an increase in quality of life measures. Now, that's an interesting finding because here's the thing, is if expectations are that life will improve and it does not, understand that, is if the expectation, because we tell clients all the time, all I got to do is quit using and everything will get better. So, but if the expectation is that life will improve and it does not, participants will not believe in the efficacy of the treatment, their ability to improve, or the benefits of sobriety. Do you understand? Remember, Remember earlier when I showed you the diagram between what one expects or wants and what one is getting? The farther apart that disparity is, the more frustrated you feel. So just think about people that go into treatment and they're told up front that if you do this thing, things will get better. And if that doesn't happen, now you've created unintentionally this huge disparity. Here's what they expect, and here's actually what's happening. Because early recovery, let me just tell you, for most people, sucks. I hope you don't have to censor that. It does. Now, you know, people get mad at me when I say that. But I've got the research on that, and I'm telling you that that's the truth. It does. It sucks. You've taken away the thing that I've used to cope most of my time. I've had to deal with the fallout of whatever it is. A lot of times the people that we get, they don't have any credit, don't have a place to stay. A lot of times they don't have reliable transportation. CPS done took their kids. A lot of times they're undereducated. They can't find employment. They feel stigmatized and judged. They're anxious. They're dealing with dysphoria. They can't sleep very well, nervous all the time, and they're supposed to like that. You understand? And so we need to explain at my agency, you know what we do? We do something really, really controversial at our agency. We tell them the truth. We tell them, you know what? Early recovery sucks. So how you're feeling? Pretty normal. But if you hang in there, we'll help you get better. It's going to take hard work, commitment, determination, but you're not powerless. And we're pretty good here at helping you figure out how to get your needs met in a clean and sober way. So if you are willing to put in the effort, we're willing to hang in there with you until we can help you do that. And we're quite proactive at addressing all areas of clients' lives. And that's a novel idea. Why this matters to you? Because it can be a way to measure your own recovery. I'm talking to the Lifering now. You can use quality of life and the 5 basic needs of choice theory as a map to guide your own recovery, focus, and behaviors. This is for the Lifering people. I mean, you know, you got a great book in Recovery by Choice, but start thinking of your own recovery in terms of quality of life. You know, and that's not just recovery from substance abuse. That can be recovery from dieting, recovery from divorce, recovery from, you know, depression, recovery, you know, because they all respond to the same thing. Substance abuse isn't this mutation that you take out of DSM-4 and the default intervention is divine. You know what I mean? It's Rethinking Substance Abuse, what the science shows and what we should do about it. This is from a new thing. I don't know if you read this. It's from Miller and Carroll. Drug use is chosen behavior. #1 principle. Drug use is chosen behavior. Traditionally, addiction has been viewed as deterministic in that causal factors override conscious control and rational choice. However, research indicates drug use is a choice. A bad one, to be sure, but a choice for many. A bad one, but a choice among many. The willful element of drug use has traditionally been minimized in the hope that compassion would replace stigma, but it hasn't. Yet, according to research, intention plays predominant role in drug-using behavior. Intention. It means that I choose to use drugs because I anticipate the reward that I'm going to get from it. Either it's going to make me feel really, really, really good, or it's going to make me feel really, really, really less bad. The treatment implication here is to treat the client as an active participant, a responsible agent. Imagine this, a responsible agent that is not powerless, not a passive agent who is incapable of rational choice and believed to need confrontation. You know, one of the things that 12-step does do that I think they do tremendous harm, and not intentionally, but one of the cliches they use all the time is your best thinking is what got you in trouble. Right? Your best thinking got you here. Which implies that you can't do a thing but screw up. You can't. All you can do is make mistakes. Your best thinking is somehow flawed. You're powerless to make any kind of reasonable. They're saying that you're going to be a loser and a liar. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know what is true? It's probably what I would say, the science would say would be compromised thinking might have got you in trouble, or lack of thinking might have got you in trouble. Impaired thinking got you in trouble. But my guess is that your best thinking is probably what's having you even contemplate maybe changing and even going to a meeting to begin with. And you are capable, if you are able to learn the things that you need to learn and are motivated enough, you are able to take back control, recover back your life, and make good choices and good judgments. That's what people do every day. Drug problems emerge gradually and occur along a continuum of severity. What that means, one size does not fit all. Most substance abuse treatment facilities, we have one tool. It's a hammer. And everybody comes through the door, get hit over the head with it. That's it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you just started or you just got one DUI or you've been an addict for 50 years. I mean, we just going to hit you all over the head with the same thing, right? Motivation is central to prevention and intervention. The reason people quit on their own is remarkably similar to the reason that people mandated quit. The choice point to stop using is preceded by various stages of change that lead to increased concern, to commitment, and finally to action. Everybody that changes, that's eventually what happens. Interestingly, this is a research. Once a personal commitment is made, the data suggests that a person in question may not need much more assistance with the overall change process. Imagine that. Because I think, quite frankly, because of the way Lifering is created, because it's so non-judgmental, it's so participatory, it's so flexible, and so that I think that once a person decides to quit, that actually, quite frankly, I'm going to say this out loud so the public can see it. I would be more comfortable referring them to a Lifering meeting than a lot of formal treatment facilities, because I know that if they go to Lifering, that they will not be judged, and they will be able to talk, and they will be empowered, and they will be supported in what they're doing, versus being harshly confronted and punished. And that's the thing that scares me the most. Rethinking substance abuse. Drug problems do not occur in isolation, but as part of a behavioral cluster. All this means is that for the longest, they treated drug abuse as exclusive, like it was happening outside of everything else that happens in a person's life. They called it primary, right? And so you have to get your drug use treated first before before you could get anything else treated in most substance abuse treatment facilities. So it doesn't matter that you're using drugs because your life's a mess. I'm going to get you to stop first, even though your life is a mess. And so what the science says is that for many clients, stopping drug use is not a high priority when other life problems are consistently prevalent. Treatment needs to determine which of the issues is causing the most problems and direct interventions accordingly. It just does. I mean, we need to find out what's going on in these people's lives. Maybe if we help them address other issues that are going on with them, either relationship issues or mental health issues, or even just environmental issues, maybe then they would be more motivated and more open to and not so afraid to stop. I mean, if you're going to take away the only thing that I feel is useful in me avoiding the pain of my reality, then I'm not going to be very motivated to stop doing that if you don't have something to replace it with. Relationship matters. Here's a big one. The relationship between you and your client matters. Even if the same treatment is applied to a sample of clients, some clients do better, not because of the applied treatment, but because of the counselor. The counselor who is warm and empathetic generally will achieve better results. What clearly makes for worse outcomes are high caseloads and a counselor who resorts to general confrontational style. That's what the research says. So basically, confronting your clients day after day doesn't work, so stop it. You hear me? Stop it. Here's my recovery, my quality world, and my reward. This is what it's really all about. I think that, we need to help our clients, and you need to help yourselves do this thing, because this is about it. And this is it for me. I thought you guys might like this. So my love and belonging, my fun, freedom, power, and survival, 5 basic needs, right? That's my fiance. She's right here. She's the love of my life. That's barbecue ribs. Those are Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I love to play Yu-Gi-Oh now. Her son, my stepson, he's 12 years old, and he's got me playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. That's my own grandson. That's my PhD. That's my daughter, who we're good friends again now. That's my best friend. That's Ben and Jerry's peach cobbler. That's Lifering. That is my step family. That's my car. I love my car. That was my claim to fame. That is the 2006 350Z, and it says Dr B.J. on the license plate. You can't tell what that is, but you know what that is? What is that? The mall. That's the mall. That's Arden Fair Mall, because I love to look good these days. And so when I'm feeling a little bit depressed, no, I'm not a shopaholic, but I'll go down to the mall. And you know why? Because for me, when I was in prison, you're behind bars and you can't do what you want to do. And I remember when I started creating the vision of my future, my sober life, one of the things I said I wanted to do was I wanted to go into a mall, a free man, and buy some free pants and put them in a free bag and walk down the free mall with my bag and experience the freedom of being able to make my own choices. So that's part of my quality world. House of Blues, I'm a blues man. And that is my big screen TV. And my fiance will tell you that's part of my quality world, boy. 1080p, full HD. And of course, that's my mom. Thank you.